Finance Committee and the Metro Council, audience guests, we're going to begin the budget hearings for May 22nd. The first department that we have before us today is the Mayor's Office and the Office of Emergency Management. I'm joined this afternoon by Council Lady Karen Bennett, who is the chair of our Public Safety Committee. And do you have anything that you want to say before we get started? Madam Chair, I do want to go ahead and just establish protocol, same protocol that we've established for our past hearings. We'll call on members of the Budget and Finance Committee first for questions, and then after members of the Budget and Finance, we will open the floor to other council members. I do ask that you keep your questions keep them on operational budget matters, please. So if you do get off subject or off the operational budget, I will try to reel you in and get you back on track so that we can stay on time this evening. Before I begin, today before us we have Ms. Ashley Doherty, Mr. Charles Shannon, and Mr. Scott Potter. And Ms. Doherty, are you the spokesperson for? You can pull it down.
Yes, sir.
All right. Before we begin, are you satisfied with the mayor's proposal for the mayor's office and the Office of Emergency Management?
I believe we can live within it.
Okay, you could go ahead and begin your presentation.
So far, you're doing good. I'm Charles Shannon, Assistant Fire Chief of the Nashville Fire Department, assigned to the Office of Emergency Management. We are excited about where we are with the Office of Emergency.
Chief, pull it up to you, closer to you. There you go.
We are excited about where we are with the Office of Emergency Management. We continue to strive to be the best that we possibly can be. Since the 2000 flood that we had 3 years ago, we have continued to work to certainly better ourselves. We are increasing our ability to respond along and in conjunction with the fire department. This year alone, we've added 7 additional connector boats that we learned during the flood that we just did not have enough equipment. And we continue to add to that, knowing that still we will probably never have enough, and that's where the mutual aid agreements come in to help us manage that part. We just, in the last couple of weeks, received a new sonar boat. This will enhance our ability in dive rescue operations, and we are training on it and hope to have it in service within the next couple of weeks. This year in the EOC, with the help of Keith Durbin and his staff, we were able to add computers, update our computers, along with the help of our dispatch center director, Dwayne Phillips. We feel like we are better than we've ever been. We continue to operate during the time of partial activations under the management of Scott Potter, our director of water. And we've had a good year. We continue again to better ourselves. We can live and will live with the budget proposed by the mayor.
Thank you, Chief. We're going to open up the floor. Councilman Stein.
I just have one question. I see here this position of deputy mayor. Ms. Daughtry, could you explain to us what the deputy mayor actually does?
Critical role for our government. He is, I'll leave it at that.
You know, you understand it as well as the rest of us do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Stein. Councilman Tiger.
I assume he breaks the tie vote if you can't decide where to go to lunch.
Absolutely, along with many other important duties.
Ashley, could you or whoever, Chief Shannon, talk about these grants that expired or were not renewed, what impact and what they were, and seems to be 4 or 5 of them.
Refer to Leanne Hager, who's our finance.
Okay.
For the Office of Emergency Management, there's a $4 million reduction in grants, and that's just where certain grants are expiring, but we will get new grants in the new years. We just don't have an award letter yet, so we did not include that in our budget.
So we show as a reduction, but we don't show the new grants coming in as an income, or?
We don't show it yet because we do not have the award letter. As soon as we get the award letter and are able to bring it before you for voting on acceptance. then
And those grants have to do with what programs?
There are port security grants, there's homeland security grants, there's buffer zone grants. If you would like a specific list, we can get that to you.
No, I'm just curious. I mean, if by chance disaster struck and they didn't come through, what impact that would have? I assume that's salaries of certain employees and it's equipment and...
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay. Are we going to talk about the new Office of Innovation any? Or can we talk about that?
I'll do my best to answer those questions, Councilman.
Okay.
What would you like me to say?
What is the purpose and the goal? We know there's 2 employees hired.
There are.
What are the measurements a year from now we say this office has been successful?
It's a great question. It's a great question. So a lot of cities, as the mayor mentioned in his speech on Monday, a lot of cities have gone to developing an Office of Innovation. And every city's Office of Innovation looks a little different, depending upon whatever their needs are and whatever their city objectives are. And what we've asked Christine and Yahweh to do is to come back to us. They won't start until July, assuming the council approves that funding in the budget. They're working on a work plan, and they have different portfolios, if you will, or different baskets of issues that they're working on. Yahweh has a lot of experience as a government auditor and a lot of experience in internal government type functions. And so what we'd like to see from him, and this may look different once he gets on the ground and gets to work, is sort of a way for us to improve some of our processes so that we're maybe a little quicker and a little more efficient and a little more entrepreneurial in the way we approach things in the government side. Christine, on the other hand, is going to focus primarily on poverty type issues is the way I would characterize it. The basket of issues that the mayor talked about on Monday: housing. Should we be in the business of delivering direct services? Are those better provided by the nonprofit sector? How can we be efficient in the way we do that? So that's sort of their broad charge, and I think it will evolve over time a little bit, but they both are working now on sort of a work plan towards that goal.
And the budget for that office or
We
that
proposed
division?
$250,000, and most of that is for the cost of them.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, Councilman Tiger, back to Councilman Stein.
Thank you. I do have one serious question, sort of a comment. I mean, one of the things we here in this, I preface it by saying in this body, we are constantly looking at ways at helping young people in this community, and we have great frustration sometimes about the school system. One of the real successes is the partnership of your office out of the Mayor's Office of Children and Youth with a variety of members of this council with the Nashville After Zone Alliance, which I will further tee up for you, that is now becoming really a model around the country, and all we sort of are is waiting to be able to take it to more scale over time, and it is an increase in the budget, and it is not an insignificant number, but I did want either you or Ms. Markman to address its success, because it's one of those things that we absolutely control, and we know there are 800 plus young people that we are actually helping in their overall lives and do better in school.
It's a great success story, and Candy really deserves all the credit for that. So Candy, why don't you come talk a little bit about it?
And we're also moving into a new zone, which I'm not sure everyone knows.
Yeah.
As conceived right from the beginning, we intended, all of us, the Leadership Council, intended to turn this into a citywide initiative, a system of really supporting all the good quality after-school providers in the community. We started small and quietly because we could only grow steadily. So we started in the Maplewood and Stratford clusters, but since then we've moved all the way down south to Glencliff Overton, northwest to Pearl-Combe Whites Creek. And this fall, I'm just really excited that we've got the YMCA as our coordinating agency down in Cane Ridge, Antioch. So we're going to be expanding there. And Although Dr. Register has not finalized the decision, my hunch is that for next fall, we'll be opening up in the Hunters Lane area and really push out further into northeast Nashville. So we intend to really build this out as a citywide system very methodically and steadily and involve more and more young people. The first year that you authorized the After Zone Alliance, we served about 250 kids, and we're up to 850, and if you will recall, they're all middle school students, very specifically because there was a real gap in out-of-school time services for that age group, 10 to 14-year-olds. So we're very intentionally addressing the issues and needs of that, that place and the developmental milestone with the work.
Thank you. Increases for expansion into the other clusters.
Yes, and let me say that what you see in that budget increase is very specifically tied to slots of young people. We're going to be adding 200 additional young people to that program this coming up year in Cane Ridge, Antioch, and a little expansion in the other zones. We, with this funding, we subsidize providers at a rate of $1,000 per young person. So the increase literally represents only those slots of young people. And actually overall the network, what you're paying for is only about $1,100 per young person. So we've kept the administrative costs under 10%.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Stein. Thank you, Ms. Markman. Councilman Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make the comment that going back to Mr. Yahweh that's coming on board, I met and know Yahweh several months ago, and as some of us may know, and I know that he was a mayor in California, and he seems to have a tremendous amount of talents. I think he's a very talented individual and believe that he really has the talent and abilities that would make him appropriate for the money that they're paying him to do that. He's a really nice young man, and I do know him, and I've had the opportunity to meet with him several times, several months ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hunt. Councilman Claiborne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question regarding the after-school thing, and this is actually tongue-in-cheek, but there is a seriousness to it. From what you've described about your expansion, should I assume, as a councilman in my McGavock cluster with all my other districts there, that we have achieved to the level that we really don't need your services?
Absolutely not.
Then why would we be at the end of the line?
Well, you'll have to take that sort of the prioritization up with Dr. Register. It's really the school district and our partnership with them. They've made the determination about how we prioritize the zones, but no, it will be a citywide system. And my hunch actually is that there will be portions of the McGavock cluster that'll even be part of the very next zone. It'll probably be larger than just Hunters Lane, but that general area. As the decisions are getting made based on a lot of the criteria that you know really well because you know your own community, we're looking at percentages of students on free and reduced lunch, students with disabilities, limited English proficiency, the percentage of the students who have the early warning indicators around school attendance, school behavior, and academics, and also just access to transportation, which is a particular issue I know in your cluster. And you and I have spoken several times earlier about this, and I have not forgotten you. I promise.
You're answering me kind of like Phil Ryan used to. Councilman, you have to get worse before I can help you get better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Claiborne. Don't see any other council members in queue. I do have a couple of questions, and these probably should be directed toward Mr. Wilshire, maybe. But if you could, for the public, because I don't think that we'll have very much discussion on the small business incentive plan. in committee when we're actually deciding the overall budget. Could you describe that incentive plan and how, explain how your office has worked with Councilman Tigert and Councilman Maynard to put that together?
Yes, sir. So the Small Business Incentive Program is an initiative that was driven by interest in members of the council and Mayor Dean to support small businesses along the lines of the support that this council and the mayor have consistently provided to adding large chunks of jobs at a time. And obviously there are challenges that you have and that you don't want to create a large government bureaucracy to be able to dole out small amounts of help. So we tried to create a very efficient system that provided incentives for small businesses to grow here. And that really falls into two categories. The first is for businesses that have 100 or fewer employees at the time of application, but then add 20 or more employees within a 12-month period. They're eligible to receive $500 per job for each of the positions that they add. In addition, in an effort to help the returning veterans, Mayor Dean thought it was important, and Councilman Maynard, as a veteran himself, I think was very sensitive to this as well. There are a large number of veterans returning from war here, and so in a particular effort to both spread the word about the importance of hiring these folks and to provide a direct cash incentive to do so, that benefit increases from $500 to $750 for each veteran hired. So that's the first piece. The second piece is an effort to rehabilitate buildings in blighted areas. Obviously, there are a number of blighted areas around town, and so in an effort to do this, we have created a proposal that if a developer has a parcel that is worth $1 million or less, and we added that restriction because there are a number of buildings, like, for example, the AT&T building is actually technically in a blighted area, and that's not what we're looking to incentivize benefit for. But if a building has a real property value of $1 million or less, and the developer makes $100,000 or more in improvements to the exterior, that they could receive up to 10% of the value of the improvements that they make back in the form of a grant from this council, this program. In both cases, each program is allocated $500,000 in the budget, and the cash benefit to a company is capped at $50,000 per company in each instance. We didn't want one company coming in and only having 40 employees, but then hiring a bunch of people and sucking up all the resources. So we figured 10% was a good cap. And Councilman Tigert has had a variety of ideas, as have many other members of the council, about how we can expand these programs, and we'll certainly look to this program as a pilot program. I use that as a bit of a ECD joke, as a pilot program, but look to expand it in other ways in the future if it proves successful. We may have to tweak it. There may be things that we discover that we haven't anticipated, but that's the program.
Okay. And when you speak of pilot, a lot of this idea came from previous incentive packages that we have passed, and council members having concern that we didn't offer incentives for small businesses. Can you speak to some of the past pilots or incentive packages that we've offered just in the past 2 years during this term? How many jobs have we actually created through, or how many jobs may be created through those incentive packages that we've already approved through your office?
So there have been, actually, there have been 13 that have been approved. I've dropped from my numbers 2 that didn't come to fruition, but we should point out did not cost Metro government a single penny, those 2 being the proposed snow and water park at Dollywood, Opryland, and the project called IQT, which was the first one I got to work on. But the other 11 projects in total have helped retain 2,200 jobs in Davidson County and are projected to add in excess of 5,000 additional jobs. So those 2 either keep and retain in excess of 7,000 jobs in Davidson County over the last 2 years.
Okay. How many, and you may not know this, but how many construction jobs may that create as far as new development that may come along with some of that?
I don't have a great estimate for that, Councilman. I do have a couple of estimates just from some of the projects that we did get some of that information on. Now, I should note, certain of the projects didn't involve new construction, so Oberto Foods was rehabilitation of an existing facility, but the new construction jobs associated with new buildings for AmSurge, LifePoint, HealthSpring, we think are somewhere north of 2,000, maybe as many as 3,000 construction jobs. I don't have a definitive answer for you on that question. I do know, and it's not, I believe it was not from this term, but the prior term, that there are approximately 1,700 people who have been employed thus far in construction of the Omni. And I think you heard the mayor quote the statistic yesterday or on Monday that approximately 7,000 people have been employed, at the deepest, darkest times of the recession in construction of the Music City Center. So I think that this council deserves a tremendous amount of credit for sort of stepping up and employing people right at the right time.
Okay. I'm glad you brought up the Omni because I was actually going to go there next. The Omni actually received an incentive package as being part of, or as being identified as the convention center hotel, correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Was there a DBE package attached to that incentive package?
Mr. Heine and Mr. Riebling may be in a better position than me to answer this question, but yes, there was a DBE package associated with both the Music City Center and with the Omni. I believe the number on the Music City Center is approximately 30.1% of all contract dollars have gone to DBE, and the Omni, which initially had a goal of matching that, is actually now at 39.1%. And so those numbers, and I had them somewhere, but I think those numbers represented $133 million of DBE participation for the Music City Center and $55 million at Omni. And of note, I think somewhere around 38 million of that 55 million was specifically for minority-owned businesses on the Omni piece.
That's very impressive, and just so the public will know why that is pretty significant, what is our goal as a city for procurement? What percentage did we set as a city?
On those projects or in general?
On any project in general.
I think it's 20%, is that correct?
20%.
Yeah,
So to be at 30% is pretty significant.
I mean, they've exceeded by 50% and almost doubled.
So that's very significant. The Omni had a DBE package attached to it. Did the Omni have to, or was it in the language or in the agreement that they had to use the workforce development program that was created as a pilot for the MCC?
Mr. Riebling may be better positioned, but I know that they have significantly leveraged the investment that the MCC has made in terms of accomplishing their goals.
Hold on.
I've always wanted to speak for, as Council Lady Barry, I believe.
Garrett is your name.
Well, Garrett, but it's, I don't know if it was a requirement that they use the specific procurement workforce development program, but they've adopted it. I mean, they have worked very closely. They just piggybacked on what the Music City Center staff put together, and after with very little pushing, quickly realized this was going to be a great program. It's already in place, and have adopted it, and I think it has worked, I think, frankly, beyond all of our expectations how well it's worked.
And okay. Councilman Garrett, if I may just piggyback on that, I know that we've actually asked the MCC staff and Roxanne Bethune to meet with the folks who are doing the DBE program for the Parallon Sarah Cannon development on West End, and in an effort to not recreate the wheel and leverage something that's already been successful, they are also utilizing those projects.
And I was about to just get at that point, because as we do incentive packages, even the incentive packages that we have approved, HCA, Sarah Cannon, Parallon, I think it's important to use the Omni Hotel as an example of a private partner that has come to the city, has taken advantage of incentive packages, but has made the good faith effort to go above and beyond, but beyond what we've required, and they've been successful at that. Ms. Hotno, did you have a comment?
I would add to that, Councilman, that I think one of the reasons it's worked so well for Omni and that private party is that we made that investment at the Music City Center. And all we really did was offer them that, and they just chose to take it and move forward. It was already in place. It was successful. There was no reason to recreate the wheel. And that's going to continue, I hope, going forward as we do other projects.
Well, I want to talk about that because the Workforce Development Program was created as a pilot. Of course, the funding for that program was tied to the Convention Center funding. And Rich, how much did we use to fund that program, that pilot?
Councilman, I don't recall the actual number off the top of my head. I can get it to you, and I'll have it for you either later tonight or in the morning. But it's probably somewhere in the $100,000 to $150,000 range, somewhere in that range, I think, is what was set aside for that. But I'll get those numbers for you. I'm sorry, I just don't have that.
I see Sharon Hurt is in the office and Jump administers that program. Sharon, could you speak to how much we actually allocate toward that program?
Thank you. We actually received about $150,000 per year to run the program.
Okay, thank you very much. What I would like to do, Matt, and I think that what Omni has done, and I think what HCA has the potential to do as far as DBE and workforce development on their projects as a private partnership with the government, I would like for your office to have that tool to use. And I think the Music City Center and the Omni Hotel example was the perfect example of how this could be successful for other incentive packages that we do as a city. But I would like to add to my wish list, if I could, John, $150,000 to continue the workforce development program out of the Office of Economic Development. So, thank you, gentlemen. Are there any other Councilman Allen?
Just to get back to the small business program again, could you explain the different roles of the Industrial Development Board and your office in administering that, just briefly?
Yes, our office will provide the staffing and oversight, and the Industrial Development Board will provide sort of supervisory oversight. Sort of it's a check that the IDB serves in that function for grants from the state and others, so it's just a mechanism. Okay. So. Right. Yeah, sorry. There's a legal role that there's sort of a check and balance, so we're not, they're providing that legal entity to which the council will grant the money and that will then be the administrator of those funds.
Thank you.
All right, Council Lady, Councilman Tiger.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, you made mention of Dollywood at some point, or someone did, about the project that didn't work out. Dolly Parton was on an interview, one of the TV stations here in the last week or so, saying, although this deal didn't work out, I'll be back in Nashville at some point. Did anybody pick up on that, and what can we do to encourage a partnership with existing resources and Dollywood? Because the one element that many of us still think that's holding us back is more kid-friendly things to do in this city, and a theme park would be the home run, and certainly a partnership with Dolly Parton. And I'm just curious if there are any plans to reach out.
I didn't see the specific interview that you're talking about, but our Mayor Dean agrees with you and feels like the theme park market is missing here and would love to see something happen. Dollywood and Dolly Parton would be a great partner for that, And I think if the market is demonstrated by the fact that there were private parties willing to make that investment originally, and I hope that happens again, and I think we'd be supportive of it if it did. I know that they should speak for themselves, but I know that former Gaylord, now Ryman Hospitality, has an interest in pursuing that too.
I could see Matt and Rich in their Speedos going down the Flume Zoom and Pigeon Forge in trying to push that deal.
Well, today, based on his initial comment, I would put Councilman Stein also in that mix.
Thank you, Councilman Tiger. Councilman Bedney.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Excuse me. I wanted to, that's a question for Matt Wilshire. And I'm very excited with this small business program. You know, I've been bugging you for a long time about it. And I just wanted to emphasize that, you know, my district is not a blighted area, and we have lots of mom and pop stores. And I hope that we can continue working on developing a program that will help small businesses, which is a part of the entrepreneurial force that we need in the city to be successful and to help them survive. Many of them last for a while and then they have to close. And so I know we and I have talked about finding ways to do that. So I just wanted to just one more remind you that I'm still going to be coming to you guys. Thank you.
Duly noted, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilman Bedney. Councilor Lancaster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to ask this question, I guess, to Deputy Mayor or to Mr. Reebling. Is there an executive director of the Industrial Development Board?
No, there's no. The staff of the Industrial Development Board is really staffed by Matt and the Finance Department. We don't see. And the legal department, yeah. There's no real need, I don't think, to have a full-time staff for that agency. So it'll just be duplicative of other work that's being done. So, I mean, thus far, I think it's worked pretty well the way it's structured. Everybody's pretty pleased with it.
But a lot of money comes through and around and about, and you don't think a full-time executive director at this point is needed?
I truly don't. I think it would, I don't see any need for it. I think it's all being met very well by the various parties doing their roles in the process, and I think it's actually working really quite well right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Lancaster. Seeing no other council members in queue, I now declare this department budget hearing closed. Thank you all for your service to the city. You too, Mr.